Hello, everyone. So I was nudged to drop in with you guys and do an energy update because I haven't done one of those in a while, and I know that they tend to be the most popular because they're practical and actionable and digestible and relatable. So I thought that I would jump on today and kind of give you the scoop on some of what is going on, some of what you might be feeling, or some of the symptoms that you might be experiencing, and what you can expect. So the first thing that I was shown is that a lot of you are feeling like you're at a standstill right now. It's almost like you've made these dramatic shifts in your life where you've either quit your job or anything that had semblance of a 3D reality just simply didn't harmonize with your being anymore. And you decided that you would suspend that reality, if you will, and really, really devote yourself to uplifting your frequency into that fifth dimensional consciousness. Now, here's the thing. When we go through a transition like that, we will be in that rainbow bridge for a while, which is the 4D, which is you having one foot in one world and you having one foot in the other world. So what it feels like is like you're in an in-between phase, and patience is asking to be exercised, and you're kind of going back and forth in your mind. There's a bit of a tug of war because deep down you know that you're deserving of a life that is effortless. And yet that ego mind, the programming, is kind of tugging at you to come back to 3D. All right. This can be quite an intense time because the 4D is the astral realm. So when you're in that 4D, kind of transitioning yourself into 5D, there can be a lot of psychic attacking, where you have different beings grabbing your leg when all you're trying to do is fly up with your beautiful golden wings into 5D. And then because you start questioning your trajectory, then you will kind of take two steps back and then another step forward, another step back. But just know that from the higher dimensional viewpoint, there's never anything wrong that you can be doing. All right, there is no right, no wrong. From one dimensional viewpoint, the nine would say that there is, because if you're doing something that isn't aligned or that you know isn't aligned to your divine blueprint, then that would be a wrong choice. But in the grander scheme of things, right, like the nine, my guides, they work at an oversoul level. So from that oversoul perspective, there is no right, no wrong, and there is no morality when it comes to looking at life from that oversoul. There is morality within this, within our humanity, within materiality, but from that overview, there is no morality. And I can give you a quick example of this and get into this, kind of expand on this at a later time. But like, let's say that you had someone who murdered a friend of yours. No one deserves to be killed, right? So at a soul level, we're all in agreement. It's like a unanimous vote that no one deserves to have their life taken. And that, of course, this would bring about a lot of pain, not only to the family of this person, but to their close relatives and their friends and the friends of those friends and everyone who hears about it. So from that perspective, it's not okay to kill someone, because then you're it's kind of like stealing someone's life. It is stealing someone's life, which would be an infringement on one's free will. Now, if you were to take it up a few notches into the oversoul, and when I say take it up a few notches, I don't mean that it's better, all right? Because there's no such thing as better when you're dealing with the universal matters. It's really just a matter of perspective. So when we talk about the Pleiadians, when we talk about the Arcturians, when I talk about the nine, they're not higher, or there's no hierarchy, right? It's just that they will, these other beings will assume a different perspective. Okay, you got copy that. I've worked with beings that have zero morality. They're not to blame for that. It's just that they occupy a different frequency bandwidth. And the reason I work with the nine, which are the White Wing Collective Consciousness of Nine, that Magenta Pixie channels, the reason I work with them is because they have a well-rounded view on reality as we know it. So from the oversoul perspective, nothing is ever done in vain. So would that murderer be judged? no, the murderer would not be judged. Okay, they might have something that's bigger than them, a force attached to them that caused them to kill that person. And then from the oversoul perspective, that killing would then give a chance to everyone in that immediate circle and in the extended circle, would offer those people a chance to grow. So if one was to turn around and start pointing the finger at this murderer, they would be stooping to that level, which would contaminate themselves and feed into this duality loop that we're always in, which is that vicious cycle of tit for tat, and an eye for an eye, and the pot calling the kettle black. So judging someone who killed wouldn't be as karmically grave, if you will, as killing, because there are ramifications to what we do. And a lot of that ties into our belief systems, and a lot of that ties into, I can talk about that for days, but it wouldn't be as grave, but it would still be meeting that person at that lower frequency. So from the oversoul perspective, you can see how one murder would bleed into, literally or metaphorically bleed into, everyone else who was affected by that killing. Everyone. And then it would lend those people an opportunity to either stoop or to find forgiveness in their heart and really, really be present with their own process. But there would be people who would take it and start judging the person who killed, and then that would contaminate the waters, if you will. So from the oversoul perspective, where emotions don't really exist, everything is catering to everyone's personal development for those who have eyes to see. That's why in this energy update, I really want to emphasize how the universe now is actually reflecting back to us everything in real time. So in the past, there was a bit of a lag, right? You would get mad at someone, and then that reflection may not come back instantaneously, or sometimes it would, but our manifestations are speeding up now like no tomorrow. It's truly like on steroids. And then the reflection of everything that we do that is in or out of alignment is being brought forward straight away. There's no lag. It's funny, I was at the store with my friends the other day, and I said, I don't know if I should get this or that. And right away they were like, we don't like confusion, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. I was just having a human moment, which is fine. I have airhead moments all the time. And obviously I'm not going to judge myself for having been indecisive in that moment. But it was just like a message from the universe saying, Phil, the second that you disempower yourself or that you're unconscious now, we are going to show it to you. So with regard to your manifestation, those are going to be happening a lot more rapidly now. And then with regard to when you step out of your alignment, that's going to be shown to you straight away, no lag. So that's going to challenge us to really step up to the plate and try to bring as much awareness as we can to the mix throughout the day. Which is why we all have an apartment and we all have a home. That's our time to relax, to throw our feet up, to watch Netflix, right? To not think sometimes. But when you're out in the world, it's important to pay attention, to have that 360-degree awareness. It's like a panoramic view. So that was one of the messages coming through, is that the reflection of your vibrational offering, the reflection of your vibration, is going to be shown to you in real time. I got this vision once that when we burn a red light, and that's just an example I'm using right now just to draw a point, but when you burn a red light, you open up the possibility within the infinite field of possibilities and timelines. You open up a timeline that where you're now susceptible to being pulled over by a cop. Now, that's not to suggest that you can't get pulled over by a cop at any given moment, But when you deliberately choose to burn a red light, which is an unconscious act because you're putting other people in danger, then you're opening up a timeline for you to get pulled over. Now, that pulling over may not happen straight away, but when it happens in a month or two or in a year from now, you might go, oh, I remember that I burned a light a year ago or 3 months ago, and now it's showing up. That's how we used to operate. And now what I'm getting is that because there's no delay effect, you're going to get put in your place straight away. Okay. So it's just something to keep in mind. Obviously, this can be a quantum conversation, and it's not always that you get pulled over for that. There can be so many different factors that tie into that equation. Sometimes cops will try to pump fear in you. Sometimes they just want to be, remember, policemen and all of that, they're also going through their ascension, and some people will choose to remain at a third dimensional frequency, and some people will choose to evolve. I've always been of the belief that cops should feel like family. Like, don't do that, you know what I mean? But not when they drive behind you, not to try to inject fear in you, because that's coming from a reptilian mind. So, but yes, the delay effect, there won't really be a delay effect anymore. Okay. All right. So I'm going to bounce around in this video just because I want to give you as much of the intel I'm receiving in real time. I didn't even know what I discussed on this video, but I knew that I had to come on. One of the visions that came through this week was that, so the two words that were highlighted were unexpected surprises. Unexpected, and it was relative to romance. So many of you have been diligently working in concert with your higher selves. You've been putting your nose to the grindstone. You've been doing your shadow work. You have been in the state of limbo, like, oh, should I go all the way with 5D or should I go back to the 3D? And I'll get back to that in a moment. But you have been in a space where you feel like you are expanding exponentially so. And so you're loving reaping the benefits of all the work that you're putting in. Now, these benefits are not necessarily tangible yet, but you can feel the benefits that are taking place within your body, within your mind, within your soul. You feel a sense of peace. You feel a sense of ease. And yes, there might be those thoughts that are intrusive sometimes that tell you, should I really trust it? Should I really go for it? But overall, you have this keen sense that you're on the right track, even though there is no right track, but there is from one perspective. You're aligning yourself to your truth. You're aligning with that higher reality. You're stretching your faith into the unseen, into the knowingness that you will be taken care of and provided for should you continue to follow that divine rhythm of peace, of joy, of health. So you have this inner knowingness that you will be taken care of as a result of honoring this path and remaining true to who you are. Okay. Now, because you're loving being in this container where you're witnessing yourself having so much growth, you're not really concerned with whether or not love is going to come because, again, you're having such a good time connecting to your soul and remembering all that you are, all that you were created to be. And you're loving working with those future timelines of who you see yourself becoming without distraction. But what the guides were bringing in this week is that you may find that randomly someone pops out of left field and surprises you, and you weren't looking for love at all, and it's going to show up unexpectedly. And what's great is as I'm transmitting this message, I can feel so many of you, that's why I took a pause, I can feel that so many of you are like, you're like, cool, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't, and that makes me smile because that just demonstrates how much you've been doing in terms of your elevation, in terms of your evolution. You have come such a long way. And it's important sometimes to stop in our tracks and just give ourselves a little pat on the back because most of the time we're so focused on where we're going and what we're doing that we don't really take a second to acknowledge ourselves for how far we've come. But yes, I saw that there would be love coming into a lot of you guys' lives, and that it's going to be an unexpected surprise, is what they called it. So they highlighted unexpected surprises. All right, now going back to this feeling that you have at times where you're kind of like in limbo. You're like, I don't know if I should fully trust this. I don't know that I'll be provided for. I don't know that living this new earth reality is actually going to put money in my pocket. This is what you have to understand. Even though you may not be able to generate money right now because you're fully diving into your introspection, into your reflection, into your meditation, at least you're not paying for school. So right before I jumped on here, that's the message I got, is like, you don't have tuition fees. And right now, there are so many extra dimensionals and so many angelics and so many higher dimensional beings that are initiating you into these higher states of consciousness. You know, I often talk about how time is a spiral and how we have to revisit older energies to be able to walk through them with an open heart and with a new perception. Okay, so everything that's ever happened has to be walked through again, but with a higher consciousness. And when we walk through these experiences with a higher consciousness, we alchemize those frequencies. We turn the lead into gold. We become the alchemists of our own reality. And we are serving the collective, and we are serving those higher timelines that we want to merge with. So as you have this window of time where you really get to immerse yourself in this ascension process, bearing in mind that you are in school, but it's an invisible school, you see. It's kind of like an academy that is within you, and you are being graded on everything that you do. But you're not being graded in a judgmental sense, because again, these guys aren't higher or lower than us. But there are certain grades of consciousness, if we want to get linear for a minute. There are certain grades of consciousness where you kind of have to prove that you're not afraid. You have to prove that you're willing to move beyond these different hurdles, and to kind of initiate yourself into these higher matrices of consciousness. So to kind of simplify for a minute, 5D New Earth is already abundant, and the abundance is waiting for you, and it's already here from a different viewpoint. And right now you might feel like you're in that in-between space because you have to be willing to go all the way. And think of it as a network of all these beings who are waiting to sustain you, to supply you with everything you need as you transition into 5D. So it's like a network of light where you'll never have to worry about money again, because you'll be provided for based upon the energy that you emanate from the depth of your soul. But if we're still questioning what we're doing, it means that there's still a trace of lack in us, or a trace of doubt in us, which belongs to 3D. I know for myself, when I was awakening, it's like I constantly heard voices that were like, do this. I'll tell you guys a little story. So in 2012, I believe, a year after I awakened, which at that point I still had a lot of those programs in my body. Okay. So I'm going to open up to you guys to show you kind of how to illustrate how this process goes a little bit. I was on the phone with a friend that I was going to meet for coffee, and she was like, hey, I'll meet you in an hour because I'm not ready yet. And I said, cool, I'll go to Marshall's and because I need to buy socks. And she was like, I really need socks too. And at the time, I still had a tight grip on money. I was very resistant to money. I didn't like money. I didn't like what it epitomized. I demonized it. I always had a hard time making money. I wanted nothing to do with it. So, but I was working on clearing that program of fear because I knew that in order to initiate into that higher octave of consciousness, I had to be willing to meet my universe halfway and dispose of all these limiting beliefs so that I can vibrate myself into 5D. Because when you first awaken, you're shown everything, but then you have to go through a process of observing what you're still running in terms of programs and delete those programs, which can be quite painful because those programs are in your bones, they're in your flesh, they're in your organs. So when you awaken, you can now observe yourself clearing these different programs, but it can be scary because it's what you identify with, it's what you've grown up with, it's what was pounded in you, right? As you were growing up, as you were indoctrinated, as you were in school, and they'd made you do things that are completely not in alignment with our creativity. I don't remember anything from school. I just remember that I didn't want to be there. I just wanted to drop out. So my point is, let me get back to the story. So she said, I really need talks too. And at that time, like $5 was a lot for me. $10 was a lot for me. So I went to Marshall's or Ross. I can't remember. I think it was Ross, actually. I went to Ross. I bought some socks, and then I bought her socks. And then we went to the coffee shop. And I was sitting outside, and I had the bag with the purchase in it sitting on the table. And in that moment, and I knew she was arriving, my guide said to me, Phil, you're just putting the bag there because you want her to treat you for your coffee now, because you just spent money. I'm like, damn, they just caught me. And then I was like, okay, right? So they pinpointed what I needed to clear within me. So then I was like, okay, what do we do? They're like, hide the bag. Perfect. But then I felt like I still wanted her to treat me for the coffee. So then my guides interjected again, and they're like, Phil, you're going to hide the bag and you're going to treat her for your coffee, and then you're going to give her your gift. So when she arrived, I went in, paid for her coffee, and then I proceeded to give her her gift. And all I saw was like gold star, gold star, gold star. So we should never shame ourselves for still having these programs. We were unconscious, so we absorbed and soaked up everything that was ingrained in us. But I felt so proud of myself that day because even though it was very subtle, I was in communication with all those subtle realms that were kind of giving me instructions on what to do to free myself from 3D. And there will be like this perpetual series of initiation phases that you go through in order to graduate into 5D. Once you land on that fifth dimensional landscape, money will never be a problem again. As a matter of fact, all your old methodologies, how you used to approach your life is going to completely turn upside down. It won't be how much money can I make today. It'll be what is my light body needing from me today? And your communication with your light body is so strong that it's kind of running the show. It's telling you what you need to do and what not to do. So it's a vibrational existence. It's no longer like, let me make this amount of money today, or let me blame myself if I'm not being productive enough. There's none of that. It's a vibrational reality where you are following the instructions of your guides, of your light body from moment to moment, and you are giving it what it needs. And every time you do that, you are upgrading yourself. It's a constant victory. It's you serving all of humanity, because then you're uploading all of these knowings for other people to be able to access. We're all part of one collective mind. So everything, all those voices I heard were probably from people who had been through that process, who deposited that recipe for me to be able to communicate with all the different ingredients within the recipe to then upgrade into 5D. So the message I want to share with you guys today is, if you're in that state of, I don't know what's going to happen, there's like a huge question mark hanging over your head, just know there's nothing to worry about at all. You're good. You've got this. All right. And it's more than you've got this. We've got you, all of us, all the starseeds, all the light workers. It's a network. It's a grid. It's a crystalline grid. But this crystalline grid is so pure that if you try to come in with that 4D, 3D programming, usually you'll get the boot. I get the boot sometimes. When I feel my vibration going down the tubes, they're like, Phil, go meditate. It's not pretty. So, I'm sharing this because I go through stuff as well. And 5D is a place of purity. It's a dimension of purity, a dimension of goodness, a dimension of fearlessness. There's no lack. So they just want to ensure that you're not going to try to walk through those doors with those dirty feet, if you will, with those dirty shoes. Because this place is pristine. Pristine, pristine, pristine. But once you get there, you're good. You've made it. And yes, you might have times where you kind of get knocked off your vibrational stool, but then it's really easy to get your vibration back up because you've been through it 1,000 times. You probably develop your own techniques, breathing techniques, third eye exercises, different visualizations to boost your vibration again. And then you're good. So let me think if there's anything else coming through. Not worry. Oh, yeah, this is a huge one, you guys. This is a huge one. You're going to be noticing that you are hypersensitive, but not in that empath kind of way where you just get critters all over you and then you look like Pigpen from Snoopy. Not like that. Not in the sense where you're absorbing everyone else's stuff. But there's going to be a hypersensitivity because you've been receiving so many updates within your spiritual software and within your DNA hardware that you're going to be able to see the akashic records and to read the akashic records through little moments that present themselves in your everyday life. So I'll give you an example, and I call this dimensional access. You're opening up your dimensional access, and more than ever, we have access to the akashic records through little things that you can notice in your everyday life. So I like to give examples that I go through just because it makes it relatable. I have found that I'm not really able to say, like when I go on Instagram and then I have a caption, I'm not able to say in this caption, check out YouTube or subscribe to my YouTube, because that relates to a record where I'm imposing myself on you. I'm imposing, go do this, which is a form of control. And I don't mean it that way, I never have. However, it still energizes that old construct of being impositional or trying to control things. You get it? So pay attention to what people tell you. I have a family member that's been telling me, you should watch the Raptors. And with all due respect, I played basketball when I was young for 10 years, but I'm not into watching basketball. I think it's a beautiful sport, but I'm just not into it. So when this person says you should really watch it and they say it more than twice, all I receive from that is like, and again, they're not doing this knowingly or wittingly, but there's you should do this is connected to an akashic record where we were trying to dominate each other. Does that make sense? So the other day I was in the elevator leaving the gym, and this guy was having a conversation with the girl at the front desk. Great conversation, amicable, friendly, all of this. And on his way down, she said, have a great day. And he said, have a better one. He meant well, like honestly, they were both adorable people. But in that moment, and again, we never associate what we hear to the person because everyone's doing the best that they can. Everyone is dwelling at a different frequency. So not everyone has access to those blind spots. So in that moment, I saw that he wasn't able to receive the have a good day, like thank you. wishing you a fantastic day as well. He was like, have a better one. And all I saw was like this shark that was like, right? But he didn't mean it that way. And I'm sure the girl didn't receive it that way either. So I just want to be crisp clear that he didn't mean it that way. But that's what I mean by the hypersensitivity. You will see how all of these different stories came about. You will even be able to trace back to the inception point of those stories. So more access to your past lives, more access to other people's past lives, and more access to collective lives. Because again, it's not so much about people. It is, but it's not. It is about people. The nine are coming in. The nine are saying it is about people because we are responsible for our choices and our actions. So when we believe a limiting program, which is like a lie that's being fed to you, then we have to hold ourselves accountable for having invited that into our vibratory field. So we are always to account for what we attract because we played a part in it. Not always. So now they're saying not always. That person who was killed doesn't deserve it. But we're responsible for how we respond to the overall situation, always. That's what they mean. We're always responsible for how we respond to situations. But is that frequency ours? Not necessarily. It could just be an energy that you ingested because your parents carried that in their DNA and then was passed down to you. Or you carried it in a previous life and then you kind of etched it into your DNA so that you can revisit it in this lifetime and pick up from where you left off. So there are collective timelines, and you will be able to vision into them by paying attention to how people act or how people speak, and then following that breadcrumb, if you will, or going back into time to find out where it came from. So that was the other message. Hypersensitivity to what people say or do. Like you should do this, or you should do that, or another example, like we all do this, so I do this too, but let's say that you treat a friend to dinner and then you get on the phone with a friend or a family member and you're like, oh, I treated my friend to dinner. You mean well when you say that, but what the guys are always encouraging me to do is look at why I feel a need to say that. Why do I feel a need to say that I treated someone to dinner? And in that, you can find the record. There are all these archives, right? And you can go in and locate these different archives. And usually it will be connected to like wanting other people to validate you for having done something good. And you have done something good. So no one's saying you haven't. But really ask yourself and examine your patterns. Why do I feel a need to say that? Is it because I want approval? Is it because I'm still observing myself through the other person's reflection? How long will I need that reflection? Do I still need that reflection? That kind of thing, okay? So I hope that this video helps you guys. Please like the video if you can, that helps. And again, you don't have to. I don't want to impose it on you. And thanks to everyone who's been supporting, donating. I'm in the deepest gratitude for you guys and for being on this journey with you guys. And I will see you in a different version of the now.